So do you wanna rock?
So we're here in Oslo, Germany with Danko Jones, and you're here touring with your current album, Fire Music.
Right.
It compared to like the last records, it seems a little heavier and darker. Tell us a little bit about that.
It wasn't deliberate. We just did what we usually do when we write an album, is just write a whole bunch of songs and record them. But there was one song, I think Body Bags was the first song that was written that had kind of a Misfits feel to it. And that really kind of made us decide to just wear our Misfits influence on our sleeve a little higher on this album. There's always been like songs that have been inspired by the Misfits in the past, but we always kind of play it down a bit. So this one we really brought it up in the mix and just wore it on our sleeve a little higher.
What inspires you to write music in general?
I really can't pinpoint. I mean, it's just fun to write songs and to record them and stuff. That's always fun to do, and to watch just, an idea blossom into a full song, and it's great, There's the excitement of making an album. There's long hours, and sometimes it gets boring. But once you can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel, it does get exciting. That these songs that you just wrote in your room and just coming to life, in a big recording studio or something.
When you write, do you write as a group, or do you write the songs mostly yourself?
The songs come out in different ways. Like, for example, a lot of the time it's me bringing in a riff, and JC is good at arranging it, but I'll come up with like maybe 2 riffs, and that would be the basis of the chorus and the verse, with a melody line that I'll kind of sing over on top of. And then JC's really good at going, oh, well, this should be, placed here and there and there. And then we come up with a skeleton of it and bring it into our rehearsal space. And then we take it from there, and then we demo it. And then our producer comes in and, usually, it's pretty almost, I'd say 85% done by the time that our producer comes in and walks in. And there's little tweaks here and there, but, that's just to make it a little more cohesive. But for the most part, the songs are pretty much done in the rehearsal space before anyone hears them, between the 3 of us.
What gear did you use on the record? You see you use a lot of the SGs right now on this tour.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of guitars, there's all kinds of guitars. Usually on records, because every record has had a different configuration of amps. But in terms of guitars, it's more consistent. It's usually a Les Paul, a 335, an F-hole Telly. There was a couple of SGs used. One of them was one of my guitars that I play on stage. It was used a lot on the album. Oh, but it got wrecked, so not anymore. Not this tour, but one of my live guitars was used in the studio, and that doesn't happen very often. Usually, it's studio guitars and then a different set of live guitars. So I found a lot of the time the live guitars just don't work in the studio. They don't have the right sound. So yeah, like all our albums have Les Pauls, but I never play Les Pauls live. I can't play Les Pauls live.
Okay. So. You're touring Europe again. You're in Europe a lot.
Mm-hmm.
How would you compare touring Europe to like South America or North America?
Well, we've only been to South America once. We played Brazil, and that was a lot of fun. North America, I feel, it's not as open as Europe. People like their music in compartments, and they don't like to mix and match a lot of the time. And sadly, I don't think there's that much of a big rock and roll underground or a hard rock underground in America. There's maybe a punk rock underground or a heavy metal underground. There's things like Pitchfork for indie rock, but in terms of rock and roll, it just doesn't have enough of a scene that can support B-level bands. Like a rock and roll band like, I don't know, like the Rolling Stones can go out and, play stadiums all over America. But when a band that's kind of influenced by the Stones, that maybe is like on a B level, they're known, they have a name to themselves, and they have a few albums out, and they have a label. They can't be as self-sufficient as they are in Europe, where there is a scene where bands can tour and have a lot of people come out and see them and support the band and keep putting albums out. And bands like the Helicopters, now Imperial State Electric, the Backyard Babies, Us, and we see it with all the bands that we're taking out on tour in this year alone. We've had Admiral Sir Cloudsy Shovel open up for us, Judah opened up for us, Death Penalty opened up for us, and this tour is Dead Tired and 77 opening up for us. These are all kind of like...
Dead Lord.
Did I say Dead Tired?
Yeah.
Oh. I told them that I almost said Dead Tired last night on stage because there's a band back home who are called Dead Tired on our label. Dead Lord, 77, Judah, Admiral Sir Cloudsy Shovel, Death Penalty. These are all kind of new rock bands that, sure, they can tour America, but I don't know how much ground they can have and how much of an audience they can build up, just because I think there just isn't the scene or the culture there for it, sadly. So it's here in Europe where rock and roll really lives.
How do you see the music industry these days? I mean, it's different. Like our generation, we used to go out and buy vinyl. Then came CDs, and now it's all about like downloads. How do you see that these days?
Well, I think the music industry is still in transition after 15 years of this happening. People still don't know where it's going. And there's always positives and negatives to the situation. So positives, well, a band doesn't have to go through a middleman like a record label. They can upload to Bandcamp or iTunes or SoundCloud directly and cut out the middleman. And have it immediately available worldwide, through the barriers of different territories. And sometimes these record labels can do worse for a band than good. There's countless stories of bands who never got their album released after they signed a record contract for some political reason or some reshuffling at the label, and they got their band destroyed, or they didn't sell enough copies so their career was over or something like that, or they owed an exorbitant amount of money that they would never be able to pay back, and thus ending their chances of making a band their career. On the other hand, there's also some good labels who do really well and who are able to do what a band can't do on their own. A band's supposed to play and write songs and not be so burdened by the administrative part of being in a band. So, labels are supposed to, if they do their job right, take care of all that and make sure that people have heard of the band, and if they're good enough, come out and support the band. So, with labels kind of going under, you're losing that. So, yeah, there's good and bad sides to all of it. Plus, a bad thing is also the fact that it is so accessible to upload your music as well as download. There's like a proliferation of too many bands. Like it's just overrun by anybody can put it out, and so there's a lot of shit. Record labels used to help in sort out and filter through all the bad bands. They did that in their offices before they signed any band. This is all theoretically, of course. They're supposed to kind of do that. And if you believe in a band's signings, 2 or 3 bands that you believe in on a label, then you kind of start to have this kind of blind allegiance to them, where you support them blindly without even hearing the band because you like the label's previous output. So there's that's being lost. It's still there, but it's not as numerous as it used to be. But I also have heard too many horror stories of bands who signed with labels, mainly major labels, but who signed with labels and then just got screwed over,
What advice would you give to young bands, young musicians?
Pretty bleak advice not to do it, really. We were lucky we got under it right when it was starting to, downloading was starting to become an issue. We kind of made a name for ourselves before all that happened. So we were lucky in that sense. But if you were to start a band now with all that's you're up against, bands having to go on tour to keep it going rather than relying on record sales. So if there's too many bands on tour and trying to get, your name out there, it's hard. I would try to dissuade a band from doing that. But if you really wanted to do it, I would say do what I notice a lot of bands don't do, which is just listen to a lot of music before you even start. It'll only help you. And more than just the music you play, like, listen to pop music or rap music and jazz and heavy metal music if you don't, and indie rock if you don't, whatever it is, just listen to a lot of music.
You've been doing this for many, many years now. What was, let's say, the highlight of your career, or let's say one of the best moments ever? There's a few. Playing with the Rolling Stones, meeting some people in bands that I grew up. That would have been another question. So, like your hero moment.
Yeah, I've had a few. I've been lucky enough to have a few over the years. Those are probably the most memorable for me. Meeting someone that you grew up listening to or really liking, and now you're meeting them kind of on a peer level, which is even more insane. Just to meet them would have been enough, but sometimes you're on the same tour or the same bill. Meeting Ian Mackay and talking to him, hanging out with him, having breakfast with him, that was a highlight.
Oh,
Singing with Axl Rose and touring with Guns N' Roses and being on stage with Axl, that was a highlight. And being on stage with Duff McKagan and taking the lead vocals on a Guns N' Roses song with Duff, that was cool. Singing with Motorhead and,
Ronnie James Dio, you met?
Dio was very nice to me. That was really a lot of a great time, great moment to meet him too. Yeah, there's been a few, Those are the ones that stand out, but if you get me talking long enough, I'll probably come up with a few more that I forgot, but yeah.
Do you still listen to the old records, like old Iron Maiden stuff you grew up with? Do you still take the time to listen to those records?
Yeah, I mean, I don't do it every day, what I do is I usually go through a phase where I'll probably listen to Maiden for a whole weekend and then not listen to them for 3 years. That's usually what ends up happening. Or not just Maiden, but like any other band you want to name. So, yeah.
What do you do in your free time when you're not playing music or writing music?
I'm pretty busy with little projects that I kind of come up with on my own, music related. Like I have a podcast, it's on iTunes and SoundCloud, and I'm always busy editing the next episode, or I write for Close Up Magazine in Sweden and Rock Zone in Spain. Yeah, so there's all kinds of little things that I'm always busying myself with.
And final question, what are the plans, Danko Jones 2016?
I think it's our 20th anniversary as a band, so there's a few ideas and projects that are kind of been floated over us, and hopefully we can all get it all done in time for the 20th anniversary. But we started our band in '96. We played with the Turks, was our first hometown gig. We played with the Spaceships, was our first gig. Spaceships ended up morphing into the La Sexarinos and King Khan and the Shrines. It was our first show with the Spaceships. So that was 20 years ago next year. So we're probably going to do some sort of commemorative release. Mm-hmm. There's a few ideas and commemorative show. I don't something like that. But we're also going to do what we always do, which is, tour. We're probably going to do a few tours. We're going to do some festivals. There's already a few that have been a couple that have been booked and a few that have been talked about. So definitely we're going to be doing summer festivals. And other than that, you know, we've already started working on the next record. Like ideas are starting to be bounced around. So there's that, you know. We started writing Fire music 2 years ago this coming January. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're going to do, like on the, like kind of like clockwork, start working on the next record. But, you know, that won't see the light of day until maybe, I don't even know, this time next year or the year after or something. So.
Ooh. Okay, so finally, for all of those who don't know what's in the box, let's go check it. This is the current album, Fire Music. This is a special edition. I think there's like 1,000 copies out there.
It's limited, that's for sure.
It's limited, and let's see. So we have the record. It's actually a pretty cool cover. Who did the artwork for it?
She's great, and I can't remember her name. She was awesome to work with.
So we got another CD. There's 2 more tracks actually that are not on the record. Mm-hmm. So-called B-sides, and
yeah, we did another session after Fire Music was recorded, and with some songs that we had demoed for the album, but they didn't make the cut to be recorded. So we recorded them at another point in time, a few months after we finished the record.
So you go. There's the certificate, and you got this autographed card. Did you sign these yourself?
Yeah.
Wow. Coasters.
Who else would sign it?
That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, we got the wristband, and we got the hat. It's very good for this time of year. Mm-hmm. And the coolest thing, I think this is like the coolest. Here we got the bag.
The record bag.
The record bag.
For a CD.
The box or whatever, or grocery shopping.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Dirty laundry.
So thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you.
And looking forward to seeing the show.
Cool.
Not our first show.
Right on.
Thank you very much.
Right on. Cool.